What's up guys, Tiana Nicole here, welcome to BehindTheJourney.com. Today I'm going to talk about goal setting. And a really funny story to tell everyone about my goals and what I did and how things started to manifest for myself. It's actually pretty funny. I was a liar. I lied to everyone forever, and I'll tell you why. You know, sometimes in life we think about everything that we don't want, and we talk about everything that we don't want. And so we make things that we don't want public to everyone, and then it ends up happening. Unfortunately, some things that we put out and that we are afraid of and that what we don't want, right, we put out, and it's pretty dynamic, dramatic things that happen to us, and not so positive, right, because we're putting out to the world and what we don't want, those conversations are had. But when I went into, after I built my business from a networking standpoint, I just started blogging and I started writing about my life experiences. I love writing. I consider myself one of the best writers ever, right? Because what you believe will come to fruition anyways. And so for a while though, for a really long time, I said that I was a weekly columnist, and I put that out to everyone. And of course, that was one of my goals, right? I mean, I had it written down. A goal must be difficult, positive, achievable, amendable, and written down. So my goals were on a list, and one of the goals was to be a weekly columnist, and I knew that I wanted to do it in the longest running paper where I live, locally in the city. And so I went into it knowing that it was going to happen. And when I started to get all the rave kind of reviews, I should say, or the people who received my messages writing-wise on my blog, I knew that it was going to happen because I just knew it. There was something intuitive that I felt in my gut about this happening. And so I put it out to everyone. I can't even tell you there wasn't a time where I told people, hey, listen, I'm a weekly columnist. I'm a weekly columnist on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. I would say, hey, I'm a weekly columnist. I'm an author. You know, I do have an ebook out. I'm an author. But I had there, I'm a weekly columnist. And at the end of the day, the reality was that I wasn't at the time. There was no one coming and running to me paper-wise to get me and pick me up to be a columnist. Actually, I reached out to many local papers in my area and even outside my area, and it was received but not done, right? It wasn't sketched in stone. I wasn't on ink in the paper. It wasn't done. But I knew that I had to make my goals public. I knew that the time frame that I thought it was going to happen was always going to be amendable, right? Goals are difficult, achievable, amendable, positive, and written down. So a part of that was to make my goals public, and I knew that it came with a public risk of failing miserably. I mean, come on. I mean, when you think about it, I could have been out there saying for the last 4 years that I'm a weekly columnist, and people could have said, well, where at? And I wouldn't have an answer for them. Thank God it hasn't taken that long. But I put myself out there because my goal was written down, and I knew that it was amendable. I know it was positive, and I put myself in a position to where that would manifest by blogging and by writing my emotions on paper and practicing and getting my skill and my craft down by using the free forms that we have blog-wise. And so when people would ask me, you know, where are you writing at or when, I would say, oh, I'll tell you soon. It's coming. I'm a weekly columnist. I'll tell you soon. It's not launched yet, but I'll tell you soon. And I kept saying that, and eventually they started to believe it. And eventually the world started to believe it. And now I can say that I am a weekly columnist in the longest running paper locally, which was always my intent. It was written down for a while. But for a long time there, I pretty much was lying and saying that I was. And I wasn't yet. See, my mindset's different than everyone else's. I always know that things are going to happen. So like once I decide to do something mentally, it's already done. Like it's already done, it's completely done, it's sketched in stone, but the world just hasn't caught up to that thought, that reality yet. But in my mind, it was always a reality, right? Call me delusional, but that was my goals. That's where I knew intuitively in my gut that I was gonna be. So why not put it out there to the public with the risk of failing miserably? But I didn't. So if right now you have goals that you want to achieve and they're not written down, it's time to write them down. If you have goals that you want to achieve, give it a timeline, right? Give it a date. Now, again, a goal, and I'll say this for the third time, must be difficult, amendable, achievable, positive, and written down. Number one, make sure it's achievable, right? Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll be among the stars. The great Les Brown said that. So shoot for the moon. Have big goals. Have long-term goals and short-term goals, but have goals. Have them written down. Make sure that they're difficult, because what's difficult is what's going to make you stretch beyond your level of comfort, right? So if you can stretch beyond your comfort zone, then you're growing to a different, you're growing to become a different person than you were prior to having a goal that was difficult, right? So things that are uncomfortable, trust me, I'll tell you one thing about goals when you have them written down, make sure that it's uncomfortable, because what is uncomfortable now for you will create comfort later. I'm talking about financial comfort, time freedom comfort, passion, satisfaction about what you've accomplished, comfort, right? And so that was a big deal for me. Also, make sure that obviously you understand that they're amendable. Now, some people, what they do is that they get goals and they write them down and they're difficult and everything else, but then when it doesn't happen in that exact time table or time frame that they put down for the goal, they get discouraged and they become uninspired and they quit. And the problem with quitting after you put in time and after you put in energy is that you're quitting right before your big break. You're quitting way too soon. Like, you're quitting right before your goal is about to be met. I mean, that's just how it is. And I've seen people do it over and over and over again in my business, in my life as an entrepreneur. And so don't do that. If something hasn't happened as a goal that you set in the timetable that you set it, it's amendable. Change the date. Change it up just a little bit. If it hasn't happened, don't worry about it. Give it another 6 months. If it hasn't happened then, don't worry about it. Give it another 6 months. But always change it, because it's always amendable. Make sure it's positive, right? You don't want to be someone that has a negative goal, walking around talking about what they don't want, manifesting what they don't want. Don't be that person. It's a really unattractive trait, by the way. And, the last thing is that, when it comes to goal setting, just have some goals. Most people are what Zig Ziglar would call a wandering generality. What is that? They wander around life with no goals, no direction. They can get in the car and they can attempt to drive to New York City without having an actual road map. They just don't know where they're going. They have no specific goals. And so don't be that person. Be the person that knows exactly what they want, where they're going, and once they hit that goal, then they're on their way to make bigger goals to achieve much bigger things, because you always want to become something different along your journey and along your process. And that's why I am here, and that's why I created Behind the Journey, because of that specific reason. Always reach for more. Behind every journey, there's a story. Behind every story, there's someone who made a list of what they wanted, they made a timeline of what they wanted, they made goals that were difficult, they reached for it. When they didn't hit it, they kept going after it, and once they hit it, they kept creating more goals for themselves, because they're always in reinventing mode, and that's a good place to be. So if you've yet to set your goals, do it now. We're just in the beginning of 2013. This can be your biggest and best year yet. I'm telling you, it can be. But if you don't know where you're going, it's going to be the same as last year in the last 5 years. For some people, that's a pretty depressing sight. So you can change. You can change now and have the best year of your life. 2013, goal setting, Tiana Nicole, Behind the Journey.